Look, right off the bat, I want you to erase literally everything you think you know about getting rich. Because the truth is, financial success is absolutely not a math problem. It's not about having some genius level IQ, and it is definitely not about memorizing complex spreadsheets. It's actually a psychological battle. Just consider this mind-blowing financial paradox for a second. On one side, you've got Mike Tyson, one of the greatest, most fearsome boxers of all time, right? He earned over $400 million during his unstoppable career. He bought mega mansions, exotic tigers. Literally, he bought a $2 million bathtub. But by 2003, he was completely bankrupt and $23 million in debt. Now, on the exact opposite side of the spectrum, we have a guy named Ronald Reed. Ronald worked his whole life as a gas station attendant and a janitor. He drove this old beat-up car, wore the exact same clothes every single day. And yet, when he passed away at 92 years old, he shocked the entire world by leaving behind an $8 million fortune. So how on earth does a worldwide superstar with hundreds of millions of dollars lose the whole shebang while a humble janitor quietly amasses a multi-million-dollar empire? Why do smart, incredibly high-earning people constantly go broke? Well, the answer is that human emotion is the invisible saboteur of our wealth. Section 1, the math versus the mind, the emotional battle. Section 2, getting versus staying wealthy, two different games. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where the reality of money gets fascinating. You see, the cold, hard logic of numbers and percentages is constantly, and I mean constantly, at war with our own human psychology. We all love to believe that if we just map out the perfect plan on a spreadsheet, success is guaranteed, right? But because money isn't just numbers, it's feelings, we have to recognize a fundamental truth, and that is the skills required to acquire money are the exact opposite of the skills required to keep it. Getting wealthy demands bold risk and relentless optimism. You have to start a business, invest in new opportunities, take wild leaps, and really bet big. That aggressive mindset, that's what gets you into the game. But once you actually get the money, if you keep playing that exact same aggressive, high-risk game, it all collapses. Staying wealthy requires the complete opposite mindset. It demands fear, patience, and absolute humility. You have to know when to stop gambling. I mean, just look at the founder of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried. He built a staggering $26 billion crypto empire in just a few years through immense wild risk. But greed and over-leveraging wiped him out completely. He entirely lacked the humility needed to actually protect his wealth. On the flip side, protecting your wealth allows you to take advantage of something incredibly boring but mathematically magical. A simple, boring 7% compound interest rate. Investing consistently at a 7% annual return is practically a cheat code that just duplicates your money over decades. $100 becomes $200, then $400, just multiplying quietly in the background. All it requires is the patience to let it sit there and the humility to avoid touching it. Section 3, flexing your future away, ego versus security. But here's the thing, letting money sit quietly goes against literally every instinct in our modern society. Let's shift our focus to our daily habits, because this is exactly where our ego violently destroys basic financial planning. We constantly sacrifice our own future security just to flex for people we don't even care about. Mathematically, managing daily finances is incredibly simple. Take the classic 50-30-20 budgeting rule. You allocate 50% of your income to needs like groceries and rent, 30% to wants like going out to eat, and 20% goes straight to savings and investments. It works perfectly on paper. It's absolutely flawless. That is, until human desires get involved. Suddenly, you really want that new car or those designer clothes or that fancy dinner you can't really afford. So what do? You swipe a credit card, and boom, you're instantly hit with a soul-crushing 27% interest rate. Because of this totally emotion-driven desire to flex, your interest is now earning interest against you. And that quick $12 burrito? Yeah, that just turned into a $50 long-term regret. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it forces us to completely redefine what it actually means to be rich. Wealth is simply the money you don't spend.
When someone pulls up in a brand new $300,000 Ferrari, we all just automatically assume they're wealthy. But all we actually know for sure is that they have $300,000 less than they did before, or worse, they're completely drowning in debt. True wealth is invisible. It's the investments growing silently in the background. It is true freedom rather than flashy cars financed by debt.
Section 4. The Panic Selling Trap. Fear in the market. This emotional sabotage doesn't just happen at the shopping mall, though. It happens on a massive scale in the stock market. Let's explore exactly what happens when our emotional brain clashes with harsh economic reality. Think of the economy like a massive party. In the boom phase, the drinks are flowing, everyone is dancing, portfolios are just going up and up. Then we hit the peak. But eventually, inevitably, the lights flicker, reality hits, and the music stops. This is the bust, the recession. Jobs vanish, companies cut costs, and the market resets. It's a painful but completely normal part of the economic cycle.
And this is exactly where the math entirely breaks down in the face of human emotion. You could have the most rational, well-thought-out investment strategy in the world. But when you see your life savings drop by 40% during a recession, the terror completely overrides your basic logic. That perfectly calculated spreadsheet doesn't feel so logical anymore. Panic takes over, you sell your investments completely out of fear, and you permanently lock in your losses.
The crazy part is, everyone mathematically knows the rules of the game. You're supposed to invest early, buy the dip when prices drop, track a broad index like the S&P 500, and just let your time in the market do the heavy lifting. But the sheer psychological terror of losing everything causes absolutely brilliant people to completely abandon the rulebook the second things get volatile.
Section 5. Reasonable beats perfectly rational. Embrace human nature.
So the crucial point is this. Your financial success depends entirely on building a plan around your emotional flaws, not just a spreadsheet. We really have to stop trying to be financial robots and start actually embracing our human nature. There is a massive, massive difference between being rational and being reasonable. A perfectly rational strategy might dictate that you put every single dime into a high-risk, high-reward investment because, over 50 years, it yields the absolute highest mathematical return. But in the real world, being purely rational usually leads to one of two things. Either you get analysis paralysis, where you're just too overwhelmed to even start, or absolute panic the second the market crashes. It's perfect on paper, but it's a total nightmare in practice. Now, contrast this with being reasonable. A reasonable strategy is essentially the Warren Buffett approach. He doesn't constantly chase the highest possible hyper-optimized return. He actually keeps a massive amount of cash on hand. Now, holding cash might not mathematically optimize every single dollar against inflation, but it acts as a crucial emotional buffer. It lets him sleep at night. Being reasonable prevents you from making those disastrous, emotion-fueled mistakes when the rest of the world is completely panicking. And this brings us to the ultimate goal of saving. We need to stop looking at savings as just a way to buy a better car later on. You are actually building what we call the FU fund. This is a pile of money that gives you the invisible superpower of options. Think about it. If you have a toxic boss, a terrible workplace, or your landlord suddenly spikes your rent, an FU fund buys you the absolute freedom to just walk away without a second thought. You aren't buying a luxury watch. You are buying back your time and complete control over your own life.
Ultimately, you have a choice in how you play the money game. You can keep playing the short-term game of ego, swiping credit cards to buy things that make you look rich to people you don't even know, or you can embrace humility, protect your wealth, and build a financially reasonable mindset that actually lets you sleep peacefully through any economic storm. So I'll leave you with this one lingering thought as we wrap up this explainer. Look at your daily spending, look closely at your emotional reactions to money, and ask yourself, what is your freedom really worth to you?